In the vastness of the galaxy, humans were an anomaly, not because of their technological prowess or their sheer numbers, both of which were relatively unimpressive compared to the vast empires and mighty civilizations that spanned the stars. No, humans were strange because of one thing: their bodies. It started with the Carthan, a warrior race with a long history of conquest. The Carthan prided themselves on physical superiority. They had evolved in a high-gravity environment. Their dense, muscular frames capable of lifting what most species would consider impossible. When the Carthan encountered humans for the first time, they didn't see a threat. Instead, they saw a weak, fragile species that would be easy to dominate. A skirmish broke out on the fringe world of Talmor. The Carthan, confident in their strength, attacked the human outpost with a small detachment of their finest warriors. The humans, seemingly outnumbered and overpowered, didn't flinch. Commander Tornlet, leader of the Carthan strike team, stormed into the human outpost with a grin on his face. His warriors were well armed, but they preferred hand-to-hand combat, where they could relish in the breaking of bones and the tearing of flesh. He had expected the humans to cower, to run. Instead, he was met with something far more unexpected. The human soldiers, wearing basic combat armor and armed with melee weapons, charged forward with a ferocity that stunned the Carthan. What they lacked in natural physical power, they made up for with incredible precision, discipline, and a surprising level of sheer physical strength. Drolic soon found himself in a duel with a human captain, a woman barely half his size. Her name was Captain Elena Voss, and she wielded a heavy warhammer, an outdated weapon by galactic standards, but in her hands, it was a weapon of terrifying efficiency. The duel was fierce. Drolic threw his weight behind every strike, but Elena dodged and deflected with speed and grace that betrayed her seemingly small frame. And then, with a swing of her hammer, she knocked the Carthan commander to his knees. "What are you?" Drolic growled, spitting blood. Elena smiled, her eyes gleaming. "You thought we were weak because we're smaller, but you've never fought someone who trains their entire life to make muscle stronger, to push past every limit." She raised her hammer high and brought it down with a force that made the ground beneath them tremble. Drolic collapsed, unconscious. The Carthan warriors, seeing their commander fall, were shocked. These humans, fragile-looking, small in stature, were overpowering them through sheer willpower and strength. The tide of battle turned. One by one, the Carthan were either subdued or fled in retreat. But it wasn't just physical strength that humans had mastered. In the following months, reports of human endurance feats spread across the galaxy. It wasn't uncommon to hear of humans running for days without tiring, lifting weights that would cripple other species, or surviving in conditions that would kill others in moments. Scientists across the galaxy were baffled. How could a species from a relatively average gravity planet develop such immense physical resilience? The answer was simple: adaptation. Humans, unlike many other species, thrived on the challenge. When faced with adversity, they adapted. When faced with limits, they pushed harder. Through centuries of evolution, they had developed bodies capable of extraordinary feats, muscles that could grow stronger through training, lungs that could expand to endure harsh environments, and minds that never accepted defeat. Soon, human strength became a subject of fascination across the galaxy. They weren't the most technologically advanced or the most numerous, but their mastery over their own bodies made them a force to be reckoned with. It wasn't just the Carthan who learned this lesson the hard way. The galactic community soon realized that while humans might not be the most impressive species at first glance, underestimating them was a fatal mistake. For in their muscles, and in their indomitable spirit, they harnessed a power unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, and it was a power that could not be conquered. Word of the humans' victory on Talmor spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Their physical prowess and unbreakable spirit fascinated scholars and military leaders alike. But while many viewed humans with newfound respect, others were not so easily convinced. The Tsari coalition, a collection of highly advanced, highly arrogant species, dismissed the stories as mere exaggerations. In their view, brute strength was no match for intellect and superior technology. The Zari were known for their reliance on powerful exoskeletons and cybernetic enhancements. Their soldiers, though not particularly strong or durable on their own, used sophisticated battle suits that granted them immense power. For the Zari, raw physical strength was outdated, primitive. Why rely on muscles when you could enhance yourself with technology? The Zari Council, eager to test this new human threat, issued a challenge to humanity. It was a show of force, a trial that would take place on the mining world of Borealis Prime planet, with punishing high gravity, where only the strongest could survive, let alone fight. The Zari sent a small army equipped with the most advanced combat suits in the galaxy. Humanity, to their surprise, did not respond with equal numbers or advanced technology. Instead, they sent a single battalion, armed only with their bodies and determination. Leading them was Captain Elena Voss, the very same woman who had defeated Commander Drolik on Talmer. The Zari soldiers arrived on Borealis Prime with confidence. Their suits allowed them to ignore the crushing gravity, move effortlessly through the rocky terrain, and deliver devastating blows with mechanical precision. They expected the humans to crumble under the weight of the planet's immense gravity, to be crushed by the raw power of their exoskeletons. But the humans, having trained their bodies to push past limits, embraced the challenge. Every step they took was heavier than the last, the gravity pressing down on their bones, their muscles screaming for relief. But they pushed on, their endurance honed through years of training, and their minds focused on the task ahead. Captain Voss led the charge, her every step deliberate, her muscles bulging beneath her armor as she moved with an unnatural ease. Despite the oppressive gravity, the Zari watched in awe as the humans began to adapt, their bodies acclimating to the intense environment far faster than expected. A battle ensued that defied the Zari's expectations. Their exoskeletons gave them the advantage in firepower and strength, but the humans had something more, an instinctual understanding of their own limits and how to push beyond them. In one clash, a Zari soldier, twice the size of a human, engaged in combat with a human marine. The Zari, relying on the strength of his suit, swung his massive plasma axe with brutal force, but the human ducked under the blow, his body moving faster than the Zari's sensors could track. With a single, fluid motion, the human grabbed the Zari by the arm and, with a surge of muscle, wrenched the entire arm off the suit, exposing the vulnerable pilot within. The Zari screamed in disbelief. How could a human, without enhancements, generate such power? The answer came not in words, but in the actions of the entire human battalion. While the Zari relied on their suits to do the fighting, the humans fought with everything they had: their minds, their bodies, and their unshakable will. They worked together, exploiting weaknesses in the Zari armor, lifting boulders, dodging attacks, and countering with bone-crushing force. The humans weren't just strong, they were strategic. They knew how to use their muscles in ways the Zari couldn't comprehend. They knew how to fight in a way that went beyond brute force. As the battle raged on, the Zari realized they had underestimated the humans, just as the Carthan had. The strength of humanity wasn't just in their muscles, but in their adaptability, their refusal to be beaten down, and their relentless pursuit of pushing beyond their own limits. By the end of the battle, the once proud Zari army was in disarray. Their suits were damaged, many of them torn apart by human hands. Captain Voss stood victorious on the field, her battalion bruised and battered but still standing. The Zari commanders, watching from orbit, couldn't believe what they were seeing. How had a species with so little technology, so little physical advantage, managed to defeat their finest soldiers? The answer was as clear as it was humbling. Humans had an innate ability to grow stronger, to adapt to any situation. Their muscles weren't just for show, they were tools forged through centuries of evolution, through hardship, and through an unyielding desire to improve. And when combined with their indomitable will, it made them the most formidable warriors the galaxy had ever known. From that day forward, humanity's reputation spread further, cementing them as a force to be reckoned with. The Zari, once arrogant and dismissive, now had a deep respect for the strength of human bodies and minds. The galaxy learned a lesson that day. Humans weren't the strongest, the fastest, or the most advanced, but when it came to harnessing their strength, they were unmatched. And in the vast, cold reaches of space, there was no greater power than the heart of a human who refused to yield. With each victory, humanity's reputation spread to the farthest corners of the galaxy, yet with recognition came greater challenges. While species like the Carthan and Sauri had been humbled, others remained skeptical. Among them were the Rex, an ancient, enigmatic race whose mastery of science and technology bordered on the divine. The Rex considered themselves above all others, both physically and intellectually. To them, the stories of humans were laughable. Their bodies, crafted over eons, had transcended the need for things as mundane as muscle and endurance. Seeking to quash the growing mythos around humans, the Rex proposed a challenge, a trial of endurance. This was no mere test of strength or combat prowess, but of sheer, unrelenting endurance. It was a trial designed to push any species to its absolute limits, both mentally and physically. Over the course of many grueling days, it was a trial meant to break even the hardiest warriors in the galaxy. The challenge was accepted. Humanity, never one to shy away from a test of will, sent a delegation to the neutral world of warriors, a barren and hostile planet chosen by the Rex for its harsh conditions. Leading the human delegation was none other than Colonel James Mathieson, renowned for his unbreakable spirit and endurance during the Mars Resistance War back on Earth. The trial was simple in design but brutal in execution. Each participant would be allowed to survive in Oria's vast desert, devoid of food, water, or shelter. There would be no weapons, no technology, and no external aid. The only goal: survive longer than any other competitor. Representatives from dozens of species, all eager to prove their superiority, participated. They ranged from species with natural armor to those with internal energy stores that could sustain them for weeks. The Rex, with their seemingly perfect bodies, were confident they would outlast them all. The trial began under the searing heat of Oria's twin suns. The first few hours saw little action as the competitors marched into the wilderness. Colonel Mathis, however, did not rush. He understood something fundamental that many others seemed to overlook. Endurance was not about speed or brute force, it was about pacing, conservation, and an unwavering mindset. As the days passed, the toll of Oria's brutal environment became apparent. The twin suns never relented, burning the surface by day, while the nights brought freezing winds that sapped every ounce of warmth from the body. Food and water were nowhere to be found, and most competitors began to drop out. One by one, even the naturally hardy species were showing signs of wear. The Rex, for all their boasting, were struggling to maintain their composure. But Colonel Mathis remained unyielding. He moved steadily, using every survival skill he'd learned in the deserts of Mars. When the heat was unbearable, he found shade beneath the jagged rocks, conserving energy. When the freezing nights came, he built makeshift shelters, using whatever materials he could scavenge. Most importantly, he never panicked. His heart rate remained steady, his mind focused. Where other competitors succumbed to the psychological weight of isolation and deprivation, Mathis thrived. By the 10th day, less than a handful of competitors remained. Among them were two Rex and Colonel Mathis. The once confident Rex now looked desperate, their bodies faltering as they struggled to maintain the stamina needed to survive. They relied on their superior physiology, but even that had limits. Mathis, on the other hand, had tapped into something deeper, something primal within the human spirit. As the final day approached, a sandstorm swept across Orias. The wind howled, blinding the competitors and threatening to bury them alive in the endless dunes. It was the ultimate test of will. Mathis dug himself into the side of a dune, using his body to shield himself from the storm. He endured the cold, the sand scraping against his skin, and the weight of exhaustion bearing down on him. Yet through it all, his mind remained clear. He knew that this was the moment of reckoning. The storm would either break him or prove his strength. The Rex, though powerful and resilient, were not built for such conditions. By the time the storm had passed, only Colonel Mathis remained standing. When the trio's overseers arrived to assess the outcome, they were astonished. Not only had Mathis survived, but he had done so with remarkable composure. His muscles ached, his body was battered, but his spirit was as strong as ever. The racks had been bested, and the galaxy had its answer. The trial of endurance had proven a fundamental truth about humanity. It wasn't just their ability to push their muscles to the limit, it was their sheer willpower, their refusal to quit, even when all odds were against them. While other species relied on technology or natural advantages, humans had honed the greatest strength of all, the unshakable belief that they could survive anything. Colonel Mathis returned to Earth as a hero, but his victory resonated far beyond his own people. Across the galaxy, species began to whisper in awe about the humans who defied nature itself. It wasn't just about physical strength anymore, it was about endurance, adaptability, and the raw power of the human spirit. For while muscles could be trained and technology could be crafted, there was no replicating the human heart and mind. What, when pushed to the brink, could outlast even the stars.